If you've ever wondered why Darth Vader was so forceful in telling Boba Fett to refrain from any disintegrations, Chapter 2 of The Mandalorian certainly provided us with an explanation behind the Sith Lord's order. Fortunately, we didn't have to wait long to see the aftermath from Chapter 1 earlier this week, and in our Chapter 2 breakdown and review here, I'll first go through the scenes of the episode, adding a few of my thoughts along the way. At the end, I'll provide a larger perspective of what I think about the show so far, both in terms of what I've enjoyed and what I'm hoping to see as the first season proceeds. Just a warning to start, this breakdown and review will contain spoilers from this point forward, so please proceed with caution. The second chapter of The Mandalorian is aptly named The Child, as the episode focuses on the expanding importance of the asset in the journey of the Mandalorian. I have to say, I'm glad the child title has been provided for us, as the asset is just far too formal at this point for the character, and I don't think I could maintain the use of Baby Yoda for an entire season. But Chapter 2 begins with the Mandalorian and the child having emerged from the encampment seen in Chapter 1, as they make their way back to the Razor Crest through passageways below the surface of the barren planet of Rvmuller 7. Eventually, sensing something is coming towards them from the surface above, the duo is attacked by a group of 3 Trandoshans. During the melee, it becomes clear they aren't just after the child, but are intent on killing them, and once the 3 attackers are dispatched, a bounty hunting fob reveals that they're bounty hunters like IG-11, seeking a bounty upon the child. As night fell on Rvmuller 7, we see an important scene with the Mandalorian attempting to heal a cut he sustained from one of the Trandoshans. The child twice appeared to reach out to heal the wound using the Force, but with the Mandalorian having no way of knowing what was happening, he simply returned the child to its crate. The clear importance of this will be seen later in the episode. But the next morning, the Mandalorian found his ship being torn apart by Jawas, taking its components as scrap. After the Mandalorian disintegrated 3 of them, bringing the total to 4 with the earlier Trandoshan, the scavengers retreated to their sandcrawler, igniting a lengthy chase scene. As the Mandalorian fought his way towards the top of the vehicle, assaulted with scrap seemingly with each step, his success was cut short when an entire group of Jawas was waiting for him. After he was shot with the ion blasters of the Jawas, the Mandalorian, along with his hopes of rescuing the parts, went plummeting to the ground below. Stuck with a broken ship and no way to get off the planet, he returned to the Ugnaught Kuiil for help. As the Mandalorian explained there was no way to penetrate the sandcrawler to reacquire the parts to his ship, the Ugnaught replied he could trade with the Jawas to get the parts back. Although the Mandalorian was hesitant at first, Kuiil offered to take him there personally, and after a quick meal, they set off for the sandcrawler. Eventually, the Mandalorian and Kuiil made their way to the trading outpost set up by the Jawas, and given the disintegrations and poor first impressions from the chase earlier, the Jawas were clearly agitated and distrusting. Following Kuiil's advice, the Mandalorian left his weapon behind and heard the offers of the Jawas. After rejecting the first 2 offers, not wanting to part with his Beskar armor or the child, the Jawas made one seemingly simple demand. They would return the parts to his ship in exchange for an item known only as the Egg. As the Mandalorian would learn, the egg referred to exactly that, an egg from a mudhorn that was found upon the planet. However, obtaining one wasn't as simple as it sounded. After being taken to the cave of a mudhorn, the Mandalorian realized it too, and prepared for the coming battle. Once he awoke the sleeping mudhorn, the Mandalorian was able to get off a few blaster shots before being thrown completely from the cave, practically reducing his non-Beskar chestplate to pieces immediately. From there, things got much worse as the Mandalorian took 3 more full impacts from the mudhorn, leaving him dazed and with a pretty innocuous dagger to place between himself and the beast. However, it's here where we get my favorite scene of Chapter 2. As the mudhorn raced towards the Mandalorian once more, the child was able to use the Force to not only stop it in its tracks, but also lift the mudhorn off the ground. The child would eventually exert itself to the point of exhaustion and entered a type of sleeping state, but the ability gave the Mandalorian time to plunge his dagger into the mudhorn, killing it instantly. While the Mandalorian was left confused as to what just unfolded, even baffling Kuiil when they discussed the incident later, he was able to acquire the egg and return it to the Jawas. As it turns out, it was simply a favored meal of the Jawas. But either way, the Mandalorian obtained the needed parts for the Razor Crest, and through the power of montage, he and Kuiil were able to get the starship and the Mandalorian's armor functional again in short order. Given everything the Ugnaught was able to do for him, the Mandalorian offered Kuiil a position within his crew, but he declined, having finally been able to free himself from a lifetime of servitude. With that, the Mandalorian took off from Rvmuller 7, with the child finally regaining consciousness. If I'm going to compare this chapter to the first, I probably enjoyed this one a little less, but there's a few specific reasons why that was, and I definitely enjoyed it overall. I think the main reason is that it was a much more focused episode in terms of plot, with the Mandalorian simply needing to get off Rvmuller 7, not really providing a grander picture with the Mandalorian culture and larger galaxy that I enjoyed so much in Chapter 1. The runtime on this chapter was likely a factor as well, as without the recap and credits, I think it was under 30 minutes. So with a show that I enjoy this much, it's just going by way too fast. And with only 6 episodes left this season, I'll have to come to terms with the fact that this is going to be over way too quickly for me. All that aside, I saw executive producer Dave Filoni on the Star Wars show recently saying that he hopes fans walk away from the show with the opinion that it's Star Wars. And as I mentioned in our Chapter 1 breakdown, that's certainly undeniable here, but with its own tone. And it's not just the species or the vehicles, but the small details like the ion blasters of the Jawas and the reference to disintegrations, a connection to Vader's line to Boba Fett in Episode 5. All of that is great, and Filoni's succeeding in his explicit goal of creating a story within the Star Wars universe here. Given the name of this chapter, we should spend some time discussing the Force-sensitive child character. It's hilarious how quickly I'm becoming a fan of this character, but honestly, how can you not? It was great to see that they didn't drag out the character's use of the Force. Although we don't know much about the species in Star Wars lore, we do know that practically every important character of the species has been a powerful Jedi, so I like that this question has now been answered early and shown in just a really great way. And the fact that the Mandalorian and even Kuiil didn't seem to understand what the Force was nice, as it connects well to the confusion surrounding the mystical energy throughout the galaxy from other characters in canon during this era. In truth though, the Force sensitivity of the child raises a number of other important questions that I hope the show can eventually provide some details for. Chief among them being, how did the character go undetected by the Jedi Order and then Vader and the Inquisitors over the previous 5 decades? More important to the series, however, will be in seeing how the Imperial Remnant and other factions found out about the child's existence, and what the Remnant aims to do with the character. I just can't see the Mandalorian handing the child over to the client and the Imperial Remnant, so it seems like that tension is going to be moving the story forward at this point. But I'm very curious to see how many factions know about the child and what their motivations are in either wanting it captured alive or outright executed. I think one of the aspects I'm looking forward to seeing as the season progresses now is the development of the Mandalorian as a character. Going in, I thought we'd find the character much more on the side of simple bounty hunter just trying to make his way in the galaxy. And while we know he doesn't hesitate to disintegrate a few Jawas or encase a few bounties in carbonite, there's also a very honorable element to the character that I like as well, seen within his interactions with the child and Kuiil. There was a great line in this chapter about weapons being part of the Mandalorian's religion, which tells me there's a very detailed backstory and greater connection to the Mandalorian culture that already exists and will likely be explored throughout the series. Being a huge fan of these lore aspects, I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about this and explore scenes like the Beskar armor forging scene in Chapter 1. But I'd also like to learn more about the Mandalorian himself, both in terms of where he came from and what he's trying to accomplish. With the introduction now over, I'm hoping to go a bit deeper with the character now. Since we've gotten off Rvmuller 7, I think the show will start moving quickly, and could very well begin answering these questions, so I'm looking forward to the next episodes. But that's just my opinion of Chapter 2 in the Mandalorian TV series. As with all of our Mandalorian breakdown and reviews, please don't hesitate to let me know what you thought of the episode and where you think the show might be going. Whether it be what you enjoyed or were left disappointed by, I'd love to hear it. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and as always, may the Force be with you.